Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week it's Valentine's Day. So the thing that I have been putting aside to read for Valentine's Day is The Promise by Danielle Steele. So this book, not this one in particular, but this book is a book that I read when I was young, maybe like 8 to 10, maybe. Basically, it was my stepmom's book. I picked it up, I read it, and then I always remembered it, but I couldn't remember what it actually was until recently. I think maybe even a year or so ago, I found this in a little free library, and I was like, that's the book that I've been looking for. So I don't normally read romance, particularly like romance. However, this is a bit of childhood nostalgia for me. What I remember of the story is that we have a guy and a girl, and the guy is really rich and his mother doesn't approve of this girl who's like an artist. And then there's a car accident and the mother comes to the girl and says, he blames you, so I'll pay for all your plastic surgery, but you just need to leave, never talk to him again. And then the mother also tells the guy she's dead. So they kind of go on with their lives thinking that that's the situation until they meet up again later, and of course he doesn't even recognize her, and she thinks he doesn't want anything to do with her. But it's a romance. I don't know. I'm somewhat scared of like the font and the, what was that crack? The lack of line spacing, but we're gonna try it. This book is actually from 1978. This hardcover edition, 1983. So we will see how we go with reading this. I really don't know what the experience is going to be like. I want to say it won't take me that long because it's only 222 pages, but again, no line spacing, so who knows. As well, in my recent vlogs, I said I was going to try and be reading less things, and I think I am reading less things this week, but still reading too many things. But I always have a physical book and an audiobook on the go. So the audiobook I'll be reading is this one, Steele's Edge. I don't know why. In my local library, a bunch of the books have these giant stickers on them that say rental. Ugh, so ugly. Anyway, I'll put a picture up because it'll be prettier. So Steele's Edge is the fourth and final book in the Edge novels by Ilona Andrews. Ilona Andrews being one of my favorite authors, and they tend to write like paranormal romance type books. But the way that they do romance, I do tend to like. Although, like, I've had mixed experience with the Edge novels. I really liked the first one. The second one wasn't bad. The third one, like, it was okay, but I didn't really buy into the romance in that one, and the plot was quite unfocused. Anyway, the third one, I'm hoping is going to kind of bring the bigger fantasy plot to an end. There's one particular bad guy that just needs to die, but also there will be some kind of romance going on. So these novels are set in a fantasy world where we have the broken, which is our world, where there's no magic. We also have the weird, where there is lots of magic, and then in between we have the edge that only certain people can enter. So I think the romance in this last book is going to be between some kind of noble from the weird, and then there's kind of like been a couple of families in the edge that we've been following. So one of those guys. But I'm hoping as well it will get a lot of the characters from the previous books, because it kind of has been building up almost into like a multicast epic fantasy type thing, as well as having the romance in there. So I think that still fits with the Valentine's theme for the week. I'm not sure any of the other books I have floating around do that. I also have The Honey Month, which is like a short story anthology or poetry collection by Amal Mohtar, who wrote or was one of the authors in This Is How You Lose the Time War, that I have over there at the moment. So the idea is that she was given by her friend like this honey sampler thing where every day you got a little sample of honey to try. And then what she did is every day she tried the honey, wrote a little description of it, and then wrote some kind of like poetry or short story inspired by that honey. To be honest, I am a few days behind. I'm on day 8, and as I'm filming it, it is the 11th. So I'm like 3 days behind. 2 days, depending on how you look at it. No, I should have already read the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. And then I've got to read the 11th for today. I think in the beginning I was really loving this and finding it like quite vibey and just like a nice, refreshing little thing to read. But as it's gone on, it's felt more like a chore, even though each little sample takes like 1 or 2 minutes to read. Like this one says 3 minutes. it won't take long. So why am I struggling with it? I think what I found in my last couple of vlogs is that reading lots of short stories just, I don't know, makes me too unfocused. I don't like it. Like, I don't mind reading a physical book and an audiobook at the same time and then maybe have something else floating around, but I don't know. We'll see where we go with the honey month. The other things that I have been reading... Oh, I did actually just finish Januaries, which is a shame because it would have fit better with the romance blog theme, because this is another short story anthology, but a lot of them were around different romances, although a lot of those were quite toxic. I think a lot of the short stories in this were really like existential or philosophical. Some of them I really liked, but they were definitely a bit up and down. But again, I think it was just because I read too many of them all in one go, and they were kind of very similarly themed. And of course, they're all by Olivie Blake, so the writing style was very much the same, and it just got a bit too much for me reading like 1 or 2 every day. And I think instead I should have, I think there's like 12 short stories, the idea being there's like 3 for each season. I should have just read 1 a month, but I had the audiobook from the library, so that didn't really work out. However, on my way home from whenever I last updated you at the park in my last vlog, I stopped at the bookshop and I had a look at the physical copy of Januaries, and there's pictures. So now I'm thinking maybe I really would like to reread it with the pictures, but my library doesn't have the physical copy. So am I going to buy it? Maybe. The other thing that is happening this week is my house sale is hopefully going through. At this point, nothing should go wrong, but we might get surprised. We shouldn't get surprised. It's going to be fine. But that will also probably disrupt my reading, because even though, like, I'm not going to be rich, a lot of this money has places to go, but I will be spending some of this money. I haven't been able to buy anything for a few years now, so we're going to buy some books and some library things and some other things. So maybe one of the books we might buy might be the Januaries, just so we can have some pictures. Is that a good reason? I'm not sure. But maybe next year I could read it and read it as I've decided it should be read, which is like 1 story a month, and then compare the experience. Because by next year I will have forgotten all of these stories. That's the problem with short stories. Like, even if I really like them, it's very rare for them to stick with me. So the one other thing that I am reading, still way too many things, is The Silence Factory. I think I'm maybe like halfway through nearly. I think I said in my last vlog, I'm thinking about DNFing it. I'm thinking about continuing it, but I don't know if that's a bad idea. But I think what we'll do is listen to Steel's Edge, and then if I'm still thinking about The Silence Factory after that, we'll go back to it. So we'll see. I'll talk more about this if I go back to it in this vlog, but who really knows? Not me. Okay, so I thought I would just do a quick no makeup update for some reason. That's what I feel like doing. I'm very excited now because tomorrow is the day I finally get my money, and I've started looking at some books to buy along with everything else that I want to buy. My eyes always have, not bags, they're just that my eyes are quite sunken. Anyway, I don't really care. Let's talk about some books, shall we? So, The Promise. I have read 50 pages of this, and to be honest, it is reminding me why, I'm so no good at holding up vlogging cameras. My arms are too weak. I have read 50 pages of this, just over 50 pages, and it's pretty much going as I remembered when I was younger. I was actually quite annoyed in the beginning. Like, there is a reason why I don't normally read contemporary romance, but especially, I guess, from the 70s. It started out with him going on about how much he's in love with this girl because, unlike the other girls at university, she has a soul and a substance and something else. And I was just like, do you have to shit on other girls in order to express how much you love her? Do you? Because I think that's kind of shit. So I didn't like that. And then the whole thing is they're like rushing to get married, which I'm completely confused about as well. And even though this girl is an artist, I feel like the beginning was just all about this guy being in love with her and wanting to marry her. Although there was also a weird bit where they went to this like beach fair or something and won this necklace, and then she got him to lift up a rock and she put it under the rock and then put the rock back on top of it, and like this is just a cheap necklace, right? It's already broken, right? I'm pretty sure later on they come back to it. And if it's still fine, unlikely, but I bet it is in the book. Anyway, we've had the car accident and now they're kind of separated. The artist girl has gone to get plastic surgery. I'm actually finding the plastic surgeon is being set up to almost feel like a romantic lead. And I'm like, are you going to make this like a love triangle? Because I'm sure he's way too old for her. So that was weird. But I guess now I'm probably into the bit of the book that I don't remember. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. As well, I did listen on my run to some of Steel's Edge. As always, I get the book and then I remember it says rental on the front and I don't want to hold that up. So I started listening to that and I am quite liking it. So it turns out we're following this woman from the Weird who is a healer. But there's always a risk with people with this healing power that they will turn dark and start hurting people. And once they start doing that, they won't be able to stop. And then she's like just found out that she's infertile, can't have children, and her husband is a complete asshole about it. So now she's like gone away to try and just avoid losing control of her powers. So she ends up kind of setting up in the Edge, and while she's there, she meets the guy. So he's on the run from these slavers that he's been trying to take down, and now they're kind of going to work together because there was this bit that was very brutal where he was being chased by these slavers and then they came across these children and like, oh, my camera, my computer falls asleep and then it ruins my lighting. Yeah, like some horrific things were happening and I was so emotionally distraught by everything that was happening. It was very intense. It has kind of now gotten more into like they've got a plan and they're trying to track down some particular people related to these slavers and they've got like a plan to make them suffer, really. And of course, it is romancy, so already you can see they're like finding each other attractive, respecting each other's skills, but also like sometimes disagreeing with each other about what they should be doing, or like he's like, you're just like a noble lady from the Weird, so why would you get involved in this very dangerous situation? Anyway, I will definitely be continuing that. In terms of everything else I'm supposed to be reading, I haven't read any of the Honey Month, and I don't know if I'm feeling motivated to, so we'll see what happens there. Was there anything else I was meant to have read? I've just been reading so many things now, I feel like there should have been a million things. But 2 is a good number, actually. So maybe we'll stick to 2 for a bit, at least. Hello, so I have not updated this vlog for a couple of days. Also, I didn't really read much for a couple of days because the first day I was waiting for the money to come through and I knew it would take a while, but like from when they told me in the afternoon that the money was going to come through to when it actually came through was like several hours, and I started, like I checked many times that I'd given the lawyer the right bank account because I was stressing out, but that's all sorted now. And then we had a lovely Valentine's relaxing time and I bought myself some new running shoes and new just general shoes because I've been living with terrible shoes because I haven't really been able to spend any money for a while now. So I've got new shoes. I have also bought a few other things. Including today, I finally let myself stop in at the local secondhand bookshop. So I managed to find a copy of the blade itself that's like almost new, $25 in the bookshop, but only $8 for an as new copy. So that was exciting. And then I also got Elven Blood, which you can tell this is an older fantasy. But this is by Mercedes Lackey and Andre Norden. And I read this series in my 20s, I think, and I really liked it. I also have the 3rd book, so this is the 2nd book in the series, and then this is the 3rd one. Maybe one day I'll come across the 1st one. I hope so, because I would like to reread this series. Anyway, that's all the books I've bought so far, but I will definitely be buying some more at some point. So I guess I should update you on my reading. I have read a couple of things. Firstly, The Promise. I managed to get to page 102. So what should I complain about first? I'm kind of like from the nostalgia point of view, I'm enjoying reading this. However, I have a lot of problems with the plot. Firstly, the mother told this guy that the girlfriend was dead, right? And he's just thrown himself into work so he doesn't have to think about it. But why did he not ask the doctor anything about how she died or like what happened to her body? Like, did he not want to see her one last time? Why did he not ask about the funeral? Because she doesn't have any family and the only friends she has is like him and their mutual friends. So shouldn't he be doing a funeral thing? Right? So none of that makes any sense, for starters. Then on the other side, the girl is like getting the plastic surgery and there's a lot of like her creating a new identity. She's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a new voice? And like maybe I could experiment with different fashion. And maybe I could even change my name and like reinvent myself. And it's all just so transparent that it's setting up for when he meets her, for him not to recognize her. So it's a little bit silly, but I guess, did I expect anything else? Maybe not. What I also don't really like is the writing style. There's a lot of like telling you things rather than showing you things. And as well, it's like third person omniscient. So I think usually most books I read that are in third person are third person limited, where it's still mostly from a single person's perspective, or at least a chapter will be from a single person's perspective. And then the next chapter will be from another person's perspective, even though it's still in third person. But this is third person omniscient, where you'll kind of just drop into different people's thoughts, like sometimes within even a single paragraph. And it just breaks my brain sometimes. Like it takes a while into a sentence sometimes to work out whose thought you're reading. And I don't really like it. So not loving the plot, not loving the writing style, but the nostalgia's good. I would also say actually the romance is not good because they're not even spending time together and she's just mad at him for not having found her because she doesn't know that he thinks she's dead and he's just being a grumpy work guy. Like, where's the romance? Anyway, the other book I'm reading luckily has a lot more romance, and that is Steel's Edge. Again, I'm holding this up. It's ugly. We're not going to do that. Actually, the main cover isn't that beautiful anyway. And the audiobook cover, the cover for the audiobook I'm listening to is even more terrible, actually. A lot of Ilona Andrews' earlier books especially do not have great covers. But some of the later ones, they're getting better. They're getting better. So, Steel's Edge. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through now, and I'm really liking it. The plot is, like, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of really intense bits, and then it also falls into a lot of emotional bits. As well, we got a little bit more of George and Jack, who are like the teenagers that, well, they were young kids when we met them in the first book, and then in the third book, we met them again, and they were teenagers. So now they're kind of teenagers. One's a necromancer, one's a shapeshifter, and they always seem to end up in the middle of the things that are happening. So we are trying to take down these slavers, and there's been a lot of quite awful things with that, especially the way that this healer is using her magic to like take people out sometimes, but also some of the connections that are going on with the bigger world are quite interesting. I left my windows open and now there's a cicada outside. Will I ever get footage in the summer that doesn't have cicadas in it? Probably not. I'm going to close my window, but it's almost definitely going to be way too hot. And also you can still kind of hear it. Anyway, Steel's Edge. I'm really loving it. As well, we have had some sexy time scenes and I quite like the way Ilona Andrews writes them. It was kind of like just as I was walking home from my run up the road from my house, and I just found myself smiling during them because I think they were kind of written in quite a wholesome way, and the two characters are very supportive of each other. So I'm liking that a lot. I'm still wondering how much of things in this series are going to be wrapped up in this book. When was this book published? 2012. So that certainly implies that they've finished with the series. So hopefully everything gets wrapped up. I guess I should also say I haven't read any of the Honey Month. I think I've kind of stalled on it and I'm not sure I'm going to push myself to get back into it. Has that cicada shut up now that I'm about to stop filming? How rude. Anyway, I will try, I think. What is the weather doing? I don't know. I saw some clouds, which might mean some more reading time, but also it's so sunny that I don't know if I actually believe in clouds at this point.
from the top, hit restart. So far it's been so hard to live, but lately something in me changed.
Okay, so once again, I have not been good at updating this vlog. To be honest, we've just been really busy shopping, because really, I haven't done any big shopping for like a couple of years now. And also shopping is just really tiring, even though I haven't really bought that much. Mainly just like some things I really needed, like a new Fitbit because my old one kept crashing, which honestly I think is maybe Fitbit's fault. But I did look at replacing it with something else and it still seemed like the best for me. Also like new contacts because these I have been wearing for far too long. A new external drive, some new underwear, like things that I've been needing for a while and putting off, like the shoes I bought, as well as some big things. So our TV broke a while ago, so we had to buy a new TV, which is actually exciting because the one we got is a little bit bigger and now I can see it from the other side of the lounge because it's quite a long lounge. So we bought that. Then as far as this room goes, been doing like a lot of looking around trying to work out what armchair I want. So I've found one. However, it's going to take about 3 months for it to actually arrive. And then I also ordered some more bookshelves for this room, and that's going to take like another month at least. This is just what it's like living in New Zealand when stock has to come from overseas. Sometimes it takes forever. So it'll be a while till I get to do what I want to do with this library, but I'm kind of fine with just doing little bits over time because even once I get my armchair and my bookshelves in, then I want to reconsider the lighting, but I want to get those things in first. And then maybe the walls, I want to change them, but I haven't decided about that yet either until I see kind of what I'm doing with the space. But we'll just do it slowly over time, which will be better because I've, with all this shopping, spent basically most of the budget that I kind of put aside for spending. I do still have some budget for books and some budget for some more clothes. So we'll see where I spend that budget. I did actually already buy some more books since the last ones I talked to you. So I bought a couple by Steph Mataku from Huia Publishers, like a local publisher of Maori authors. Steph Mataku is an author I really like. They mostly write like children's books and YA books, but still, even though I'm not really the target market and I often don't like these things, I do like these. I think part of it is seeing like Maori culture incorporated into these kind of books. Sometimes Maori culture also just sometimes like that real Kiwi feel. So this one is Whetū Toa, which is about this young girl whose mother goes to work for this magician in the country and then she ends up looking after the farm animals. I already looked through this, so they have pictures, and part of this is apparently the sheep getting all shitty and like protesting. I don't know, it looks kind of fun. There's also a robot dog and some other things. I'm not really sure, but I'm looking forward to reading this. Hopefully this month because I did put it on my TBR. Oh, and actually this. I've had a hold on this at the library for ages and it still says like copy on order, but like I ordered it and arrived in 2 days. So why is it taking the library so long? Also, Migration. This book is much thicker than I expected, but also it's only 375 pages. So I think maybe that's a reasonable thickness for 375 pages. So this is like a YA dystopian. I've seen it compared to Divergent, also Hunger Games and Maze Runner. From the back of the book, I think maybe Divergent's the best comparison, but I guess I'll read it at some point and decide. To be honest, I'm quite intrigued because it ends with pictures that are kind of like this, and also there's some similar pictures at the start, and they don't seem to be pictures of anything, but I feel like they must be. I do love books that play with format a little bit, so we'll see what that's about. My contact's gone funny. This is why I needed to buy some more. But the ridiculous thing is even my contacts are coming from Melbourne, not even from New Zealand. Sorry if I just stuck my finger in my eye in front of all of you. Anyway, actually I bought some other books. This morning when I went for a run, I couldn't help but stop by a different secondhand bookshop and I got these books. So I have the third book in this trilogy in hardcover, but when you buy secondhand books, sometimes you just accept that they're not going to match. So this is the first and second books in the Fits and the Fall series, which I didn't have on my Realm of the Elderlings shelf. Although that shelf is getting pretty full now. And I can make room for these on it, but then what will I do with the books that I have to take off there to put those on there? And that's also the problem the other day when I got the blade itself. I've just put it on top of some books because my bookshelves are so packed at the moment, which is part of why I need more shelves. I mean, also I just want more shelves. But I probably need to be careful about buying too many books until my new shelves arrive because I'm running out of places to put them. Anyway, what I should actually do is update you on my reading. So I want to talk about The Promise first because I'm kind of annoyed about it. On the front of this book, it says, "The love story of the decade." Who decided to write that? Because that's not true. I'm pretty sure, so now I'm 3/4 of the way through. I'm pretty sure everything that happened in the last quarter that I read, like I didn't remember any of that from when I was young. And probably because maybe a lot of it went over my head, but also it's very unromantic and kind of has nothing to do with the two main characters' romance between each other. So the guy has been off having kind of like this, I was going to say romance, but it's not a romance. He has this relationship with this woman he works with, and it pretty much just had one chapter of them getting together and then one chapter of her being like, wow, he's a complete asshole and all he cares about is work. And maybe finding out about the existence of Nancy and all that, but like, honestly, in that chapter, he was just being such an asshole. I didn't even want him to get back together with the other girl anymore because he's a jerk. Why? Just go away, basically. As well, he brought up again that he thought that these nurses had stolen stuff from the other girl's apartment. Like, if you really believe that, why have you not contacted the hospital or contacted the police? Because if you did that, I'm pretty sure that they would tell you, yeah, she took that stuff herself because she's not dead. Like, there's so many opportunities for him to actually find out what's really happening. So that's dumb. On the other side of things with the girl, this plastic surgeon has basically made her into his ideal woman, and it doesn't seem like she had any input on what she was going to look like at all. And then he's trying to like start this romance with her and saying, oh, I love you. And it's kind of gross and sick and definitely morally wrong. Like, is that the kind of ethics that plastic surgeons are allowed to get into? Like, making a woman into your ideal and then pursuing her? Also, it did give me their ages. He is 24 years older than her. And when she's talking to her psychiatrist about it, the psychiatrist is just like, oh, well, just wait and see. Because the girl was like, oh, well, I don't really have any feelings for him, but I know he really loves me. And the psychiatrist says, just see what happens. The psychiatrist should be saying, why don't you try and make some friends your own age? Like, what about that? Like, all of that, disgusting. This is not a love story. And I'm actually kind of shocked. Like, I read this when I was like 8, maybe 10. Like, what kind of ideas did that get into my head? I think nothing, actually, though, because I think I just went whatever and waited. Like, I guess I just forgot all of the story except for him and her being together. So I'm going to try and finish off the final quarter tonight, and then maybe I can update you about it and finish off this vlog, because I have actually also finished the other things I was reading. So Steel's Edge, I finished that this morning. I will admit, kind of the last third, they were doing this complicated plan to do with the nobles and like exposing this important guy that was involved with the slavers, and I didn't fully understand the plan, and maybe that's me. Maybe it's that the plan didn't 100% make sense, but also the plan as they were executing it did have some good moments. There was also some good romance, although a few bits that were maybe questionable, but generally I was on board with the romance, and it was certainly a million times more romantic than The Promise, so there's that. Also, so with this book, I was waiting to see whether the bigger plot thread was all wrapped up, and I think it was, but it was only really like right near at the end. Like, it's kind of what Ilona Andrews did with the Kate Daniels series over here, as well, is that right at the end, like the last book, I thought, how is this possibly going to wrap up everything that's been going on through the series? Because we're so close to the end of that last book that I thought it can't possibly do it, and it did do it. And it's the same with this. Like, I thought there's going to have to be another book to tell us what happens with this particular guy, but it did actually manage to squish in that ending within the book. So I think we can probably confidently say that the Edge novels are complete. There's certainly scope for them to write more books in the world, but don't know that they will because they've got so many other things that they're working on. I will also say, now that I've read this, I kind of want to go back and read the Innkeeper Chronicles because I've realized that some of the kids in the Edge novels are actually side characters in the Innkeeper Chronicles. And at the time, I of course didn't appreciate those links. And now, like, I feel like I missed a bunch of side stuff that was happening in the Innkeeper Chronicles. But there are still meant to be more books at some point for the Innkeeper Chronicles. So maybe I'll do a reread of that series whenever that's coming out. I mean, once again, that is also much more romantic than The Promise, so maybe I should have considered reading some of that for Valentine's as well, because this is not the vibe. Although also, it's not Valentine's anymore. That's finished. I wanted to get this vlog up very soon after Valentine's, and I've clearly failed, but never mind, I guess. Okay, so I am in the same spot, wearing the same clothes, but it is in fact the next day. And last night, before I went to sleep, I did finish off The Promise. As I said already, like, this does just not meet the blurb, the love story of the decade. What I realized, by the time we get to the end, it is 32 chapters. And we only spend, I think, 5 of those chapters with both of the characters together. Maybe there were a couple more at the beginning, but like pretty quickly, the car crash happens. So like, barely a chance to get to know them and get to see them together. And then they're just off having their own toxic relationships and like plastic surgery and toxic work environments, all of that. And then it's only right at the end. Well, no, there are a couple of chapters where they meet each other and he doesn't recognize her and she's really mad because she's like, why didn't you come and find me? But she doesn't want to tell him who she is. So like, they're just having like a really weird interaction. And it's not until later when he's somewhere else that he realizes who she actually was. And then like just in the last chapter, they meet up and they're like, oh, I didn't realize, let's get married. I hated that ending for many reasons. And I just didn't think it was romantic or satisfying at all. So in terms of my memory from my childhood, I had the whole setup with the car accident and everything else correct. What I didn't have correct is the necklace at the beginning that they put under the rock in the sand at the beach. My childhood memory was that they had put that there and then made an agreement that no matter what happens with their relationship or whatever, that they would meet each other in a set amount of years at that spot. Honestly, I suspect childhood me made that up because it made a lot more sense than what actually happened. In the book, they make some promise at the end about how they'll always love each other or some nonsense. And then at the end, she goes back there to like get rid of the necklace as some kind of like catharsis, ending her like feelings for him. But he, having realized who she is, realizes that that's where she'll go back to. And just honestly, that doesn't make any sense either. Like, supposedly you had a whole relationship before this book started, and yet the only location that matters to your relationship is this random place you left a necklace on the beach. And the necklace was not broken. It was covered in sand, but not broken. Unrealistic. But still, childhood me remembered it pretty good. Will I ever remember this again? Like, I don't know what I should do with this book. Should I put it in a free little library for somebody else to enjoy? From the selection in the little free libraries around my neighborhood, I think a lot of older people use them. And this is an older book, so maybe they would be really excited because I don't think I would read this again. And I don't think it's worth keeping just for the nostalgia. So never mind, at least I have satisfied childhood me's curiosity about what that book was about. As well, what else happened? Not much. Oh, actually, what I did realize is that both The Promise and Steel's Edge did have a similar plot point, and that was the plastic surgery. Because in Steel's Edge, there is a character who basically, as part of this whole plan to take down the slavers, gets plastic surgery to change their face so that they can pretend to be someone else. And somehow, despite reading both these books at the same time, it's only after I finished both of them that I suddenly realized all these books have the same plot point, but like used in such different ways. But much more effective in Steel's Edge, because in Steel's Edge, the message was kind of that she loved him as him, despite or regardless of what he looked like. Whereas this, like, did he only still love her because she's now like the most beautiful woman ever? That's what it keeps telling us. Is that why? Like, if he had found her and she was still, like, suffering from the car accident, which, again, would be much more realistic, like, would he still have chosen her and wanted to be with her? I have my doubts. I have my doubts. because it did not convince me that it was romantic. Anyway, I did also remember the other thing I was reading this blog. I don't know, the honey month. I think I'm just gonna put it aside, come up with another plan, because I just don't think it's gonna work for me reading one every day. But I was enjoying it, so I don't know. But also just recently I've been reading too many things at once, so I've been trying to cut down. And in my next vlog I'm gonna try to be very focused. I just remembered something else I was reading. Am I just contradicting myself immediately? So I did actually pick up Monstrous. This is not fitting with the Valentine vlog at all. I'm about halfway through volume 9 of Monstrous. I guess maybe I'll just talk more about it in my next vlog. Oh, what's that doing? But I can't show it to you without the ring light. The art in this graphic novel series is beautiful, so I'm really loving that. And I guess that's the vlog for this week. Let me know, it's a little bit after Valentine's now, but let me know how your Valentine's went and just how you're going, how's your reading going. Let's chat down in the comments. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.